Hello, welcome to another episode of Church at Home. I'm Father Michael,
Father Joshua.
And Father Ed Estak.
and today we're getting ready to celebrate the Feast of the Assumption. And I think we've already had some good conversations about what this feast entails.
And how Mary obviously stands in the centerpiece of not only the Feast of the Assumption, but in the centerpiece actually of the story of salvation. And she's not just standing there,
Yeah.
she's fulfilling some really important roles, if you will, in our understanding of salvation.
Yeah, so we know, right, from all the way back from the beginning that Adam and Eve, like, they kind of messed stuff up. So from that point, we have this whole story of Israel and the Lord calling them out and making promises to them. And we really see in the gospel today when Mary is talking about when she's proclaiming this great Magnificat, this song and verse of the history of the people of Israel, that God has finally come to fulfill all of those promises that he made. And so Mary becomes this fulcrum point where God reaches in and levers out all of humanity from the depths of sin and death that we have been suffering from since the beginning of Genesis.
Right. Yeah, the Bible experts tell us, at least they used to, that Mary's hymn, we call it the Magnificat. You know, we recite the Magnificat every evening. The church does in the Vespers or the evening prayer of the Christian prayer book. This Magnificat was most likely an ancient hymn of the people of God. What is unique is that Mary takes it and makes it, in a sense, her own hymn. And so when Father says that the people of Israel are kind of summarized in this person of Mary of Nazareth. And, of course, we, from our perspective, see that she's more than just the people of Israel. She is the human family. They even call her, the fathers call her the new Eve, so that she has been called and graced by God to, in a sense, repair and to be a place where God could undo the rupture between God and humanity all the way back in the first book of the Bible, back in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, so she becomes like this pinpoint of grace within the history of humanity, where all of this stuff shifts. But then, in Thomistic philosophy and theology, we have this idea of exemplarity, someone who becomes the example for everyone else, and then we learn from them how to do that thing. It's how education works, right? So the teacher shows the students how to, as an example to them, and then we follow after them. It's how we learn language and all this other stuff. So Mary becomes the exemplar of our faith.
And then we could say, well, a pattern.
Yeah.
And then kind of, for those of you that have fallen in love with the Virgin Mary, we could say she becomes, in her spirituality, she becomes the partner and a pathway, so that we even talk about a Marian spirituality, if you will, for those who, and would rightly so, be able to pattern their life with God on Mary's. And so, Father Michael, you were saying that you liked something about that I had said in our earlier conversation. And
Right. You used the expression, "Do you know how this movie ends?" referring to the Virgin Mary and her assumption into heaven, and how that even in the prayers of the church on that day, we're going to say something, we're going to pray to the effect of, where the Virgin Mary has gone, we hope to follow. Kind of seeing her as a prequel for what our faith is ultimately leading us to.
Right. So we got I went down a rabbit hole of these movies,
No,
and
never.
so, and I have never watched a Star Wars movie, so I'm innocent of this. But they did Star Wars, and then it was such a big hit. Then they came up with this notion. It's the first time I ever heard it of a prequel, which is that they went back and they decided to fill in the story from afterwards, after they told the story. And then, of course, then they have the sequel, and then they have the last final journey or whatever. And so we can see in the scriptures, of course, from the book of Revelation and in the feast of, and in the second reading as well, we see that what happened to Mary and Mary's life and Mary's faith is really a kind of a pattern. I said pattern already, but it's kind of like a target where God would like all of us to see that, well, this is where this is going. So we were trying to make a personal application, I guess, to this. And I don't know if you look at your life, maybe on a daily basis, of examination of consciousness, do you look at your daily life and the events of your life, or do I should speak of myself, in the context of the whole story? Where I came from in God, where I am headed in God, and therefore I can see this pinpoint, as Father says. I can see it as in the midst of the story. So,
Yeah.
So like and maybe in certain aspects of our lives, you want to say to people, I'd say young people or anybody, do you know how this movie ends? I know how this.
Yeah.
I know how this movie ends. If you continue to walk down that road that you're going, I've been around long enough. I know where this goes, and so I don't know.
Yeah, but the beauty of this is that it's we know how the movie ends, and it's victory.
Right.
Oftentimes that phrase
That's right.
is more of like a negative, but right now it's this
That's
this
right.
positive. Like we know and have been promised that we'll be following in the wake of Jesus and Mary to the seat of heaven, right?
Right.
So there's a beauty to that, and what you were saying really. This like targeting kind of thing reminded me of one of the words that's in the Bible that is used for the word sin, that we translate to sin, is hamartia, which means to miss the mark. And so if Mary is the example, the mark that we're trying to hit, and like the path that we're trying to follow, when we don't follow that mark, when we don't hit that mark, we're sinning. So there is this like idea of pattern or example or exemplar all throughout the stories of the Bible, from all the way from Genesis to Revelation. So as long as we can look at the pattern and follow the pattern, the path, then we'll end up in the same place of victory.
Yeah. I think, of course, the virtue of hope. I don't know, Father Michael maybe or Joshua would like to say something about. Therefore, we have hope, because we have the confidence of faith that we know how the story ends, and in our preaching, Father Joshua and I, especially over the last couple of years, we were working on a little app, and so one of the questions I try to ask myself or answer before I get in the pulpit is, what is the message of hope? Because we can all go down, oh my God, the world's going to hell, I'm going with it. Everything is dark and gloom, just throw ourselves on the feet, the mercy of God. But so this ultimately is a feast for me of hope, Christian hope. So
Yeah. We know how the story ends.
We do.
yeah. So let's be people of obviously deep faith, and of vibrant hope, because we know where this story ends, and so we give thanks to God in Our Blessed Lady on this beautiful feast.
God bless you all.
Take care.